LeSean McCoy from FS1 Speak. Is this a make or break season for Deshaun Watson?
I think it's a make or break year for him. You said he was 5-1 when he was playing, so that's pretty really good. So you look at his numbers, right? Average 185 yards passing. That was ranked 31st. It's only 32 teams. Okay, so that's the total yards, because he can scramble too, right? Average 210 yards. That's ranked 25th. That's not good. 8 touchdowns. That's ranked 24th. I guess it's okay. 6 turnovers, two pick sixes, and a fumble recovery for a touchdown. So, I mean, we can look at the wins in 5-1 and say that, but when we're really watching play, I watched a guy like Joe Flacco, right, who I never thought he was super great like that. I thought he was a good quarterback, right? He had his good moments, right? Overall, was just above average. Is that safe to say, or right? He looked better than Deshaun Watson. He came off the couch, and he's almost 40. I don't know, I might make that up, but he's old. So when I watch Deshaun Watson, I need to see some, because I'm tired of defending him.
Sure.
I know how good he used to be. I haven't seen nothing look close. So if he don't ball this year, it could be a break year.
You know, LeSean McCoy knows it's not fantasy football. It's not about the numbers. It's about winning and losing. The other thing is he hasn't played consistently enough. It's been in one game, out 2 games, in for some games, out for some games. He's got to get back on the field. But the bottom line is he's 8-4 in games that he's started and finished. That's trending towards a playoff team. That's if you're 8-4 after 12 games, you're going to be in position to win the AFC North.
Yeah, I struggle to understand why people who actually look at this are making this Brown season about the performance of Deshaun Watson one way or the other. One thing that Deshaun Watson has proven since coming back is that he's not going to stand in the way of the team's ability to win. You can debate about how good he's been, if he's been good, if he's been bad, whatever you want. But one thing you cannot debate is that he has not been somebody or a quarterback that has stopped a team from winning games. They're 8-4 with him on the field. You could say 7-4 if you don't want to count the Indianapolis game. Still a record that you would be happy with over that amount of games. But like we're really leaving out this possibility that Deshaun Watson could play well. He doesn't have to play great for this team to be good. Like, what is the take if the team is an 11-12 win team and his numbers aren't spectacular? And how much does it matter if his numbers are spectacular? Brock Purdy's numbers aren't spectacular. They get to the Super Bowl. That's fine. Patrick Mahomes' numbers last year weren't spectacular, but he was able to hit the haymakers when he needed to hit the haymakers. We make so much out of bulk production, but it really does matter when a thing happens. Like, you could talk about how many yards Deshaun Watson threw in that Baltimore game. What I know is that the 2 drives the Browns needed it most, he came through. You could talk about the lack of production in any of the other games that he's played, how he didn't break 300 yards, but when the Browns needed scores in those games that they won, he came up with those scores. That's ultimately what matters. You cannot read football. You got to watch it. And that's because some of this production comes in context that's important. And that's the one thing I think people miss when they just try to divide out, oh, he had this many yards in this many games, that's where this ranks. But if you watch him, if you watch when that production happens, you would know that it's a similar situation to any quarterback who might not be putting up great numbers, but is playing well enough for the team to win, where he's doing the things where it matters. Obviously, the game against Pittsburgh is bad. He had a horrible game, that one. But outside of that, and maybe his first game back against the Texans, I can't really point at many bad games he's had as a Cleveland Brown. He just hasn't had one of those crazy games yet, which is fair because he hasn't even played 17 full games with the Cleveland Browns. So, I mean, like, if he stays healthy last year, odds are he puts up the same numbers Joe Flacco did against some of those teams that the Browns played that weren't playing at a high level at that time. It's funny, if it was Deshaun Watson that put up 300 yards against the Jets, if it was Deshaun Watson that put up 300 yards against the Jaguars, we would talk about how the level of competition wasn't great. Oh, he was playing against a team that wasn't playing well. But Joe Flacco does it, and because it surprises us, we don't evaluate those things. But if you want to come here and tell me Joe Flacco played better, that's something we have to evaluate. And you're not going to tell me that he played better because the team was not better with him. Plus 63 with Deshaun Watson on the field in point differential, up there with the Kansas City Chiefs, plus 20 with Joe Flacco. And that's not including the playoff game. If I include the playoff game, it's a negative plus point differential for him when he's on the field.
Yeah, you know, guys like McCoy that are referring to his numbers, it's not figure skating. There's not a judge holding up an 8 or a 9. You win, you did enough. You didn't win, you didn't do enough. And ball in your hand in the fourth quarter, go win the game. I've seen him do that a couple of times. So let's see what happens if he can play 5, 8, 10, 12, 17 games in a row and get into a rhythm.